word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're gonna be talking about the eternal Thena. That's right, we're gonna talk about everything you need to know about this character to hold an intelligent conversation about them and get you prepared for the upcoming MCU film, The Eternals. We're gonna talk about all that and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream every Saturday, so that way you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's ponder the question, who is the eternal Thena? Thena first appeared in Eternals number 5 in 1976 and was created by the legendary Jack Kirby. Thena possesses all the powers of an average Eternal: near immortality, cosmic energy projection, flight, teleportation, telepathy, telekinesis, transmutation of organic and inorganic matter, the conjuring of illusions, a regenerative healing factor, superhuman strength, durability, speed, stamina, reflexes, and agility. Thena chose to focus on the physical aspect of the Eternals' power set, honing her strength, stamina, speed, durability, and agility and reflexes to be at the peak of what an Eternal can accomplish. She can lift the maximum of 25 tons that Eternals can accomplish, while also using telekinesis to aid this, and her speed, agility, and reflexes are so fast, it's nearly impossible to catch her off guard. That said, Thena is probably one of the better, pure fighters among the Eternals, maybe save for Gilgamesh and Kingo. She is skilled in almost every form of combat ever invented in Earth's history. Many Eternals find love throughout their long lives, but Thena has one of the more interesting love lives of all Eternals, even Cersei. A long time ago, roughly 100,000 years ago, she met the deviant Crow, and they fell in love with one another. This relationship was responded to by both Eternals and deviants in a very Romeo and Juliet style fashion. Both sides, the Eternals more specifically, were unhappy with their union and forced the relationship to be ended by Thena. Icarus would even go as far as to accuse Thena of treason because of her relationship with Crow. The two star-crossed lovers would later reconnect on more than one occasion in secret, knowing their love would never be accepted. The two would continue to have a very complex relationship, even as Crow became a one-time villain of the Eternals, but eventually over time, we would learn that the two would reunite as lovers after a truce between deviants and Eternals took place. This time, their pairing would result in children, a pair of fraternal twins, Donald and Deborah Ritter. These children caused a lot of controversy for Thena and Crow, as both Eternals and deviants saw them as abominations that needed to be killed. Interesting sidebar about Thena's children: though she conceived both children with Crow, she did not carry them to term. She took the embryos from both children and placed them within the body of another woman who was infertile, giving her a chance to be a mother and for both children to live a normal life, for as much as that worked out. This is why they have the surname Ritter. These wouldn't be her only children. During Neil Gaiman's run on Eternals, Sprite had wiped the memories of all Eternals on Earth during this time, and they were all living as normal humans. Thena had another son named Joey. Joey was met with the same scrutiny as Deborah and Donald when all the Eternals regained their memories, but Thena was able to convince Zurus that Joey's life should be spared. Getting back to her relationship with Crow, they would be on opposite sides more often than not, many times having to square off with one another due to their allegiances to rival species. Despite this, they have both turned on their respective sides for one another. Thena even went as far as to turn on Icarus to protect Crow because despite their differences, she loves him that much. Another interesting thing of note is that during the time of Neil Gaiman's run, when the Eternals were living their lives as humans, Thena worked for Stark Enterprises. Getting back to Crow wouldn't be the only deviant that Thena ever loved. For a time after her first breaking things off with Crow, she met the deviant Zygo, a scientist among his people who seemed to love Thena, but his love was predicated on his fascination with her species' genetics and using her for his own scientific purposes. When Cersei revealed this truth to Thena, she killed Zygo, promising to never love another deviant again. This ultimately was considered to be a lie, but technically speaking, it wasn't. Her relationship with Crow, often on again as it is the only notable relationship she's ever had with another deviant besides Zygo, and even her relationship with Crow took place before and after Zygo, so in a way, she kind of kept her promise, at least for now. That said, it is positive that Thena's attraction to deviants is largely due to their capacity for change, something that Eternals aren't particularly good at. One of the things that comes up for Thena more than her relationship with Crow is her really strained relationship with the Prime Eternal who happens to be her father. It often seems that they're never on the same page at the same time, and while they have been able to work together amicably in the past, there have been multiple instances where they have not been able to see eye to eye. In more than one of those cases, it's had to do with the fact that Thena was in love with the deviant Crow. Also, Zurus didn't particularly care for the fact that Thena had sired children with Crow, and even worse, during the Neil Gaiman run where she was mind wiped and believed that she was human, not eternal, she had yet another child, and Zurus initially tried to suggest that the only way to deal with that child was to kill them. Though Zurus would later soften on the matter and even kind of grow into a more grandfatherly figure to said child, regardless of whether Thena actually recognized that or not. As much as the character Thena and her relationships with deviants are more of a commentary on interracial dating and accepting people for their differences and learning to love one another despite who you are versus who someone else is, Thena is also a character who gives a lot of time and credence to a narrative about how one's relationship with their family can be so strained, not just with the other Eternals, but Zurus especially. There have been multiple times where her and Zurus have been so at odds with one another that she's even threatened to kill him. Thena's original name was Azura, which is a play on her father's name, Zurus. This was changed to Thena by royal decree when the Eternals and the Olympian gods formed an alliance, allowing the Eternals to act as the Olympians' proxies on Earth. She's also been called Athena, Minerva, Corona, Pala Athene, Dr. Thena Elliott, and Betty Sue Bielovsky. Thena has in the past been known as the Prime Eternal, the one who is, for all intents and purposes, the true leader of her people. This was due to Zurus being dead and most of the other Eternals no longer being on Earth at the time. Angelina Jolie, who many of you may know from Maleficent, Those Who Wish Me Dead, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Salt, and Girl Interrupted, will play Thena in the upcoming MCU film, Marvel's The Eternals. Interesting sidebar about Thena in the MCU is that she is seemingly romantically linked to Don Lee's Gilgamesh in the film. This pairing was never really a thing in the comics. They also seem to be leaning into her relationship with the character Crow, who is depicted as a villainous character in the film. This pairing was from the comics, as I mentioned earlier. Beyond the upcoming movie, the only other media Thena has appeared in outside of comics is the animated comic Marvel Knights Eternals, voiced by Lisa Ann Bailey. All in all, Thena is probably one of the more interesting characters to me in the Eternals just because she goes against the norm when it comes to what Eternals are supposed to do and are supposed to be. The Eternals are sworn enemies of the Deviants and vice versa, and yet here she is falling in love with Deviants. The impression that I got from when I read this, even both now and in the past, is that this was some kind of commentary on interracial dating. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but that's what I took away from it. And I thought it was a very interesting way to look at things. Because when you really break it down, this is some very old school Dungeons and Dragons style mess. The idea that one race is inherently good or inherently evil. That's something that's a very outdated way of thinking. It's kind of the reason why in the MCU, the Skrulls, as they were depicted in Captain Marvel, and as they also were depicted in various other points in the MCU, they're depicted as not being inherently evil. For the most part, they're just refugees. They're actually pretty decent people. For the most part, it's a case-by-case basis more than anything else, and I have a sneaking suspicion we're gonna get a very similar treatment of the deviants in the MCU Eternals film. All in all, I do enjoy her as a character. I think she is probably one of the more nuanced characters of the group, and yeah, I can't wait to see how people respond to her when the movie comes out. That said, tune in next time where I'll be talking about the character Makari, who's going to be played by Lauren Ridloff in the upcoming movie. If you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share it all over the internet with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to the eternal Thena. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about the eternal Thena. Have you always known about her, or are you today years old finding out about her? Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.